Welcome to News Today with Universal Parks News Today. I'm Eric Morton, and here is the news for May 6th, 2021. Following Walt Disney World Resort's announcement that they would be removing temperature checks from theme parks and resorts, Universal Orlando Resort is following suit. Universal Orlando team members confirmed that the temperature check stations will be removed from the parking garages and hotels at Universal Orlando Resort effective immediately. The Orange County Health Department declared temperature checks for businesses unnecessary and a waste of resources. Universal is also reducing their physical distancing requirements from 6 feet to 3 feet alongside the removal of the temperature checks. This change comes after Orange County Mayor Jerry Demings announced a 3-phase plan that allows theme parks to reduce the distance requirement. Temperature checks and physical distancing markers were among the COVID-19 safety measures implemented when the parks opened back in June of 2020. Universal Orlando has updated their website to reflect and address the changes. The statement reads, "We're excited to enhance your Universal experience with the latest safety updates from local health and government officials. There are no more temperature checks upon entry, and social distancing between travel parties is now reduced to 3 feet or 1 meter. Still, most of our original safety protocols remain unchanged, from wearing face coverings across our resort to our ongoing dedication to cleanliness and sanitization." Guests visiting Universal Orlando Resort will see the signs and screens throughout have been updated to reflect this change in distancing. The parking garages markers have been removed that previously led to the temperature screening ahead of security. Hand sanitizer and gates remain where temperature screening used to be. The safety announcement playing in the parking garages has also been changed. It now states you must practice social distancing and keep at least 3 feet or 1 meter between your party and others. Some announcements in theme parks have not been updated because they simply stated guests must maintain social distancing and did not specify a distance. Yesterday, we saw team members placing distancing markers 3 feet apart, and this can now be seen throughout City Walk and the theme parks. The maps that guests can pick up at the front gates have not yet been changed and still state the required distance is 6 feet or 2 meters. Tables in some areas seemed to be closer together than they were before. Physical distancing is also being reduced inside the parks, with attractions now seating every row and single rider lines beginning to reopen. At Revenge of the Mummy at Universal Studios Florida, physical distancing had been reduced in the queue. This change includes allowing the queue to switch back more often, putting guests right next to each other. The single rider queue is not yet ready to open, but is expected to be available any moment now. We were told before entering the line that multiple parties would be seated together on the ride, but this was not the case when we boarded. The change will likely come maybe today or tomorrow with the reopening of single rider queues. Distancing changed at Shrek 4D as well. This queue also opened more switchbacks. Every row of the theater was being seated with two seats between each party. Team members at the entrance to the Bourne Stuntacular also stated they were seating the same way that Shrek 4D was doing it, using every row with 2 seats in between. At Islands of Adventure, the Incredible Hulk coaster had single rider available, though not directly at the entrance. Single riders could go through the standard entrance and split into separate queue at the metal detectors. Team members also said they would accommodate guests who don't want to be seated with other parties. Every row of the coaster's trains are being filled right now, though, and smaller parties will be seated together. This means a party of 2 will be seated with another party of 2. A single rider might be seated then with a party of 3. Since reopening last summer, Universal Orlando Resort has had audio announcements playing periodically throughout City Walk and the theme parks, reminding guests, of course, to follow the health and safety guidelines. One announcement, which referenced today's unprecedented times, played on repeat when going through security, has now been removed, and music is all that you hear when you're in the parking garages, moving walkways, and security area. Strangely enough, we heard Christmas music playing this week. City Walk, the audio announcement reminding guests to wear an approved face covering, plays every 15 minutes. After accepting internal applications from team members for entertainment roles, Halloween Horror Nights 30, Universal Resort is now accepting external auditions for scare actor, Bigfoot, and hybrid stiltwalker roles. These auditions are now open to everyone. Universal was previously looking for puppeteers, but all those positions appear to have been filled. For the role of scare actor, previous experience is not required. However, candidates interested in Bigfoot and hybrid stiltwalker roles do require some sort of previous experience. The submission deadline for external auditions is May 9th. While the newest attraction officially opens on June 10th, We attended the pass holder preview of Jurassic World Velocicoaster last weekend at Islands of Adventure. Come along with us for a high-speed dash through Jurassic Park's Raptor paddock on the apex predator of all roller coasters. The two Raptors look like they could pounce on guests at any moment, and that is if they weren't statues. The warning sign describes the ride as a high-speed roller coaster that includes sudden and dramatic acceleration, climbing, tilting, inversions, and dropping. There's also a list of conditions that may prevent a person from riding, such as heart conditions or abnormal blood pressure, also expectant mothers, and a fear of heights. As this was a pass holder preview, the wait time just said coming soon. Before entering the queue, there's a test seat to ensure that guests meet the physical requirements. Once seated, guests will note that the seat has a lap bar restraint. It does not have an over-the-shoulder harness. This is apparently to give guests an experience in which they feel like they're truly flying over the water as they race along the track. There's also an area to check and make sure that the size of your bags and personal belongings will fit in the free lockers before boarding. If the items don't fit, well, you're going to have to purchase a paid locker inside the Discovery Center. Railings line the exterior outdoor queue, and physical distancing markers actually are not present there. This area will most likely be needed once the attraction opens to the public next month. However, small physical distancing decals can be found on the ground when entering the main building of the queue. Ceiling fans cool us down as we go into the interior queue. The queue has intricate details throughout. The strips of light on the ceiling and walls alternate colors. Here, the first room lights up orange. A statue of Velociraptor sits beneath a honeycomb ceiling in one of the queue's main rooms. Guests are met with exciting music while walking through the queue, growing the anticipation to finally board this ride. The lights pulsate and change colors, illuminating the Velociraptor statues in the process. The lights, they kind of alternate between orange and different shades of blue. While changing colors, the music changes and becomes more ominous. Those with a good eye can even see the Velocicoaster train and track as part of the centerpiece statue. And Mr. DNA appears on screens within the queue, and he has information for the ride. A notable feature of the queue is that the guests are able to see the Velocicoaster vehicle launch while waiting, and then they can watch as Raptors start chasing the train. Raptor training rooms, like you see here, line part of the queue, references to this film appear in the queue as well. A model of a Velocicoaster vehicle sits within one of the lockers. DNA references are made on the screens in standby, and Dr. Henry Wu, lead genetic biologist, of course, appears on the screen to discuss the technology that allows guests to run free with the Velociraptors in thrilling close proximity. To prepare guests for their adventure, old Mr. DNA gives instructions to secure all items, including loose change and cell phones, in lockers, as guests will undergo metal detection. This is to ensure the safety of guests and the Raptors, of course. He also reminds guests to empty their beverages into the sink before placing the drinkware into the lockers. On the path to the lockers, we find some very vengeful-looking Velociraptors locked up in grooming stations, making low growls as they shake and rattle the restraints. We encountered 2 more grooming stations, and Raptors don't seem too happy, and no wonder they end up chasing us. As there are metal detectors before boarding the ride, guests cannot take phones, wallets, keys, and loose change, all these things we said, with them on the ride. We had to lock our devices up. Sorry we couldn't film our full POV, but enjoy a full video tour of the heavily detailed queue right here on our YouTube channel. We actually have multiple videos. One is my live stream. We were there Sunday. We were actually the very first in line for the first pass holder previews at 9 a.m. We walked through as a live stream, but also our reporter Annie had another video. It's probably a little bit higher quality than mine because it wasn't subject to cell phone signal and things like that. However, if you'd like to see what it's like to sit inside a locker with 250, 300 other people while you wait for me to finish the ride, check out the live stream as well. Both of those videos, as I said, right here on our channel. And with the grand opening Jurassic World Velocicoaster coming up on June 10th, new merchandise is being released at Islands of Adventure. Recently, we found some new shirts and a tote bag at Jurassic Outfitters. 3 different shirts with brightly covered retro-style depictions of Mr. DNA are available, along with 4 different styled shirts and a tote bag with a tropical Jurassic World graphic. It's Voodoo Donuts' anniversary at Universal City Walk Orlando, and they're celebrating the best way they know how, with delicious donuts, of course. Though they weren't on display on the shelves, the limited-time anniversary donuts are shaped like cake slices and come in 3 flavors: vanilla, chocolate, and strawberry. We decided on the vanilla anniversary donut for $3.75, a cake slice-shaped yeast donut, filled with cake batter, Bavarian cream dripped in vanilla icing, and topped with sprinkles and buttercream. This donut is a creative idea to celebrate the bake shop's anniversary. Instead of a traditional slice of cake, the donut is decorated as one. Complete with a pretzel candle, this donut has a cake batter filling that just tastes like funfetti cake batter, really. The consistency may be more like custard, but it tastes like the actual batter. There wasn't an overwhelming amount of filling. It was just enough to give you the flavor in each bite without making it overly sweet. The icing is very sweet, and the shell was extremely fresh. The decorative icing on top was a cream cheese frosting and added an additional flavor to the mix. The anniversary donut will be available through May 16th. We will probably buy another one to take home before we leave. It's just that good. Universal Studios Hollywood reopened to California residents on April 16th, but some attractions were still closed. Well, Despicable Me Minion Mayhem was one of them, and it reopened this past weekend, and we stopped by to check it out. The attraction was posting a 50-minute wait, which is not unusual to see for Minion Mayhem. The back of the facade was covered, hopefully indicating some refurbishment as it was looking, well, a little rough. The outdoor queue had a physical distancing set of markers, but not many guests were really paying attention to them. Before entering the show building, a team member was stationed to give guests some hand sanitizer. The first pre-show in the living room is not being utilized, and guests are directed to proceed directly to the second pre-show room. The second pre-show room is being used with physical distancing in place. Only one party is boarded per ride vehicle. The post-show Minion dance party is partially active, with the disco ball effect working, but the video projection and music are paused. If you can't get enough Minions in your life, the nearby Minion Cafe also opened during the Taste of Universal event last month. Check it out. Like Despicable Me Minion Mayhem, the Simpsons ride did not reopen until this past weekend. While visiting the park, we dropped into Krusty Land to see how safety measures affected the experience. We never thought we'd be so happy to see Krusty the Clown's giant head again. Physical distancing markers were present in the queue, intended to keep guests 6 feet apart. The Krusty's Midway pre-show room was bypassed completely, and we were led through a side door to the Funhouse hallway. The team members stationed there had a spray bottle of hand sanitizer for guests before proceeding. Only one party is loaded per vehicle. Universal Studios Hollywood, of course, has confirmed they will begin to allow fully vaccinated out-of-state guests with restrictions. And at Universal Studios Hollywood, the only show open to guests at this time is Universal's Animal Actors. Multiple hand sanitizer stations are available both outside the theater and inside the queue. Physical distancing markers are spaced 6 feet apart in the queue. Inside guests are seated only on marked areas with amphitheaters benches. Like the physical distancing queue markers, the blue signs indicate where guests should go. The only change to the show itself we notice is a new gag where a dog retrieves a face mask from backstage. For more information on these stories and more, head on over to UniversalParksNewsToday.com. If you're enjoying the show, be sure to like this video, subscribe to Universal Parks News Today on YouTube for more great content, click the bell for notifications, and make sure to hit select all notifications so that you never miss an episode of News Today with Universal Parks News Today. Well, for UPNT, this is Eric Morton saying, the future is whatever you make it, so make it a good one.